just most people don't understand that cash discount and dual pricing are two different things.
Yep.
And I think almost everyone to this state just throws those two terms colloquially. Like, I think most people have learned what surcharging is versus dual pricing to the degree.
To some
extent.
Yeah.
That's got more brand more awareness in the industry.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone really understands what dual pricing. That's a different thing than cash discount.
Yeah.
Because like we were doing the two price method.
Right.
And we were big on the debit cards. Like there's the Durbin amendment. It's the thing. People like don't catch that technically debit cards are cash. Like you read a law, right? Go look up a law, 2008. The Dodd-Frank Act says cash and debit cards are basically one and the same.
Right.
And so trying to understand some of those things like, oh, well, so I'm going to cash discount. Great. So you're going to charge the merchant the fees on cash, on debit cards. And they're like, no, we're going to run this check. Oh, so it's not debit card anymore.
Welcome to the Payments Experts Podcast, a podcast of Global Legal Law Firm. We hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Payments Experts Podcast, a podcast of Global Legal Law Firm. We're really excited. We've got an in-studio podcast today. Joining us, one of our associate attorneys, Leo Arzamanian. He works in our transactional department, as well as a really special guest, Marty Hussein with Supersonic POS. Marty, we're really stoked you made it down to San Diego and are joining us in studio. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Marty. I think one thing I really like to do when we start this podcast is ask how you got in the industry, because that's something that's always interesting to me. Before I started working here, I never knew about this industry, so I'm always curious how other people got in.
Our story is perhaps one of the more crazy ones of anyone that you hear get into payments, right? So I'll go for the long story, actually.
Sure.
So we have always owned C-stores, gas stations. I mean, our whole lives. It's me and my father. We've always been in that business. So, I graduated college. I used to work at a government consulting firm in software. So I was doing software software consulting for the government, right? I did like the Great Lakes GIS project, stuff like that. So I did just different government projects.
Real quick, just to jump in, do you have background in software?
I'm a software engineer. I went to UF. I'm a computer science degree. That's my thing. Yeah. So I started off, as a software engineer, and I was going at, I was working in software, graduated college at UF, and then I came home. My father basically left the country for like 6 months, said, right before COVID, was like, hey, can you help me out? Just run the store. And I'm like, I was working from home, I was remote. I said, okay, I'll help you out. And so during those 6 months, basically, it was like going from never owning a C-store, never running one, to, okay, now you're going to run one. Oh. And so, I learned the C-store business inside and out very quickly.
Just thrown into the fire.
Yeah, I was like, just run this store, right? Yeah. And then we did that for a few months. I even bought my own C-store eventually, right? Did well with that too. And so I was doing that while also working in software. So it was kind of like both sides. My father came back, and he, basically he was like, so how was it? And I'm like, horrible, right? Gas stations have like the oldest legacy technology you can imagine. Everything's like Windows or Linux based on-site server. You
Sounds
got
like a headache.
Yeah, two cables going under the underground. And if a cable gets like a little finicky or pulled on, the pump goes out. You got to rerun it under the concrete. It's just it's a mess.
Yeah.
So I started with that, and I was like, but more than that, if you had two gas stations, you had to change the price at each one by one.
Manually go and change it, yeah.
So even actually most gas stations today, people don't know that, they go in this little relay system where the big guy calls the little guy and says, hey, change the price. They change it at the register. They don't use a central system most gas stations today. I mean, that's what we got into, right? So we, through all that, opened a software. I basically kind of quit my job, joined, I started up a software company, which was PEP079. That was our original name. So you look at my shirt, it says Supersonic POS, and it says powered by PEP079.
Yep.
Because we started off as a gas station software called PEP079, took all my money, bought these licenses to integrate into existing gas station systems. So we were just integrating into Verifone, Gilbarco, those gas stations. So we still do that, right? So we are a certified, Gilbarco, Verifone back office partner. We're still a certified loyalty partner. So we have our own loyalty front end host that we built, and basically to this day we still do it. Is you have a gas station, we can basically do the whole pay at the pump loyalty, the loyalty at the pump with your phone number in, earn Exxon points. We do that.
Okay, cool.
We still beyond that we built the whole back office system. You get we basically cloud-enabled and modernized a gas station. You can go onto your phone, change the price once, go to all the stores. I mean, basically like that, right? So we just cloud-enabled and modernized it. Fast forward, we went to market with that 2018, 2019, when we were like, we got our first like 200 stores off our network, people we knew. We had a real problem we're solving, just gas stations, right? And from there, what we saw was a lot of those gas station guys came to us and said, hey, I like your software. I like using like this cloud app and everything.
This modern software.
Yeah, like, this is nice.
Yeah.
Can I use this at like I also own a food store. I also own a liquor store. I also own a smoke shop, whatever. They own a different business. Yeah. You know, and especially in our industry, like the same guys got like different ventures, right? They're all very similar convenience retail, I like to call the segment. So, you know, we've owned nothing but C-store and food store, and like we kind of like serviced that. We grew into that, and we launched our own POS, because the problem was people were coming to us saying, hey, we want to use you. Like, okay, we'll go buy a $15,000 Verifone. And they're like, I'm good on that. I'm like, okay. So we built a POS that was $1,500 because it was like integrate to Clover was like the alternative. And we're like, yeah. So we built a POS, and I was very anti-POS building at the time. And I was very anti like getting the payments, because to me it was a commodity business. It was something that was like very hard to penetrate.
Did you already, just to jump in, did you already know a little bit about payments?
Not at all.
At this point, no. Okay.
So that's why that long story, because that's where it ties into another long story.
Okay.
And it's just kind of like a collision of two things, and like that's what happened. So, you know, that's our journey as a company, Petro Outlet. And where payments came in was, so we were at our gas station using a First Data merchant account through North, and we were we had an agent come in. He did basically gave us like an interchange 5 and 5, like a really aggressively priced account, right? And we were doing like 30K volume on like initially when we even like a small account. So it was like a small account, right? And we're like, dang, that's a really good rate. Like we saw our rates went down $200. We're happy, right? And fast forward the time we're launching the POS, we bought another store, and we were trying to expand that. And we go to open another mid. And we open the other midday, all our terminals stopped working. And we're like, what just happened? And so we call our agent number didn't dial, like dial tone. We call again, it redirects to like some other dude I didn't know. And I'm like, who's this? He's like, yeah, I'm his boss. You know, I can't be talking to you right now. They closed your account. I'm like, what do you mean they closed their account? For what? Oh, I can't be telling you. You should know why you're on this list, man. It's called the match list. I'm like, what? Like, what? We're on what? And we didn't know anything about payments. Like, what's? And that's the sad experience for most of these owners. Like,
they don't know.
What is match? Yeah. Like, what is that?
100%.
Like, I've never heard of this thing, and like, I'm suddenly on this list, and my stuff stopped working. And you know, that was my dive into payments, because while we were just talking about the POS, but I was very anti the POS. It was just kind of like, do we integrate to Clover or whatever? This dive into payments happened where we're like, hey, let's get off the match. And so we went and we kind of like learned what an acquirer is, what an ISO is. We had to learn
Sponsor bank, agents, ISO, everything.
Like I'm Googling this stuff. Like what's an ISO, right? Yeah. What's a match
so
list?
Many terms, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so who's the acquirer? Who is my sponsor? And so I thought, okay, because North wouldn't tell us, because they can't tell you a lot of times. You're on match. They can't tell you much beyond, oh, you're on match.
Right.
And I'm like, all I knew was Wells Fargo. That doesn't tell me too much. I mean, now I look back at it, I have an idea what that means. But back then, you're like, you wouldn't know that Wells Fargo means First Data a lot of times, right? You wouldn't know that. So like we start, okay, we sent a letter to MasterCard. MasterCard basically told us back in 2018, go kick rocks. They just were kind of deferring us, right? They didn't know how to address it, you know, and because they were so hush about it, trying to like contact your acquirer. Well, we don't know this acquirer, right? Like this is something. We'll eventually keep digging through the weeds, sending letters out, going through counsel. We figured out that a fraudulent corporation was opened, completely different corporation we never heard of, because we got a lead. We heard that like we've actually found a DBA eventually, like 10 denials later, found out the DBA, like this is the actual corp name. It was a fake like construction corp with his social, my father's social. I'm like, oh shoot. And so we went, and then like we found the MID, we found the ISO, we sent a letter to them. It was like a Fiserv ISO underneath them. They had no clue about the fraud, that they had a fraud agent bringing them this fraud, right? And like who's opening fake accounts and doing these things. And eventually, like we got the whole thing such a way. We filed identity theft report, police report, the proper process.
The whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, it turned into this whole thing, which my point was we learned payments. Because we're like, it's just like a trial by fire. What is an ISO, right? What's an acquire? What's a sponsor? We figured all that out. And fast forward, it was all at the same time of us considering a POS. So in end of 2019, 2020, we were like, okay, I guess we're building a POS, and if we're doing that, we might as well get into payments. And we now know all this stuff about payments, we're going to become an ISO. And it was kind of like everything led into another. I mean, we met people. I eventually became good friends actually with the ISO that put us on Match, right? But
that's wild.
It's a crazy small industry. Like you don't know, like everyone knows each other.
That's one thing I've noticed that's really interesting. Everybody knows each other.
Yeah.
It's a lot smaller than I think many people realize.
And as it grows, it seems to get smaller, which is so fascinating. Yeah. Marty, I got to say, it's really interesting that your story into payments involves the match list.
Yeah.
This law firm, Leo knows, we do a lot of match list removal work. And we hear those calls every single day. I've never even heard of the match list, but I found out I'm on it.
Yeah, I've been shut off. I don't know why.
I've been terminated. No one's telling me anything. It's still going on in 2025, man.
Yeah, no, we had actually a merchant on come to us trying to get a merchant account who's similar situation to us, and obviously we felt bad because we were in that boat, and we helped them. Actually, we've actually a couple of times had merchants come to us, and we've helped them get off of Match, or recategorize is probably the proper way to say it. We recategorize the code, right? Because they'll come in with it being money laundering. You're like, whoa, right? And then they recategorize to what it usually is, identity theft.
Yeah.
Right. It's a lot of times what we find is, and and you can tell right away someone's like identity theft or not. Like, are you willing to go file a police report? If you're scared of filing a police report, it's like, okay.
Something sketchy is going on.
Yep.
But that was a big thing. And we've gotten a few people off now because the fact, and gotten approved their actual merchant accounts later because of the same exact situation. And it's, at least now I will state, it's a positive that there's that Match email.
Yeah.
That was not a thing.
Game changer.
That was not a thing.
We used to spend weeks and months just trying to track down the basic information. Who put you on the match list? Now you get it in a single day.
That almost makes you think there needs to be like a dual price surcharge email now too, because that's the other thing we're dealing with is tracking down someone to give us guidance from Visa or MasterCard on that issue.
Well, and they all tie together, right? So I'll finish that Match thing, which was, for us, even it actually still haunts us years later. So the Match thing was 5 years, right? Match is 5 years.
Yep.
And it's been 5 years since the fraud. So we got off of Match. But those fraudsters watch, and I didn't realize this, but 5 years later, the identity was gone. They looked and found the corp, and they refiled again.
Wow.
And they did it all over. They watched the corp for 5 years. As soon as they saw it fell off, they went and they did it, but now they did it for Square, and they do it for Intuit, they do it for different. They just know different ads. Okay, so making a real MID, let's go through a PayFac, right? And they literally watched this, and 5 years later, will refile the fraud.
I wonder if they have some sort of auto trigger, like software monitoring, as soon as someone gets off.
It makes you wonder, right? I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, all they have to do is know, dang, I screwed this guy in 2017. Just put out my calendar 2022.
5 years later, get back. Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, but it happened to us, and so my point of Match is it'll haunt you forever. Honestly,
it is comprehensive. I'll tell you, Marty. I talk to people every single day who they're on the verge of losing their business. Because a lot of merchants you can't process for 30 days. That's
Credit
it.
card.
You're done.
Especially if it's a mom and pop shop, you're screwed.
Absolutely.
It's interesting how your story kind of has all this a collision course of events where it just led you to where you are today. And now you guys are this successful company. I have a question. If your dad didn't go out of town for that long period of time and didn't have you run the store, would you be here today?
No, not at all. I'd probably be working as a
software
engineer.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's interesting how life works out.
That's really incredible.
Well, now that we know that, I guess I'd be curious to ask you, what are, let me backtrack. Something that we've been talking a lot about lately is, the compliance when it comes to dual pricing, surcharging, cash discounting, right? This whole kind of umbrella of terms and processes that Visa and MasterCard are requiring the merchants, comply with, but then they're banging out fine after fine, not really explaining the reasoning behind the fine, not really giving merchants a chance to cure these issues before they just get hit. And as we were talking off camera, they get hit with $1,000 fine, but then it goes to $5,000, $25,000. It really increases substantially. So what I want to ask you is, what are you seeing with your customers when it comes to all this, when it comes to these issues that we're seeing?
So, Supersonic POS, we kind of rebranded from Petra. We've gotten more into the POS, and that's really what we do now is we're a POS company. We, back in 2018, when we were doing all this, that was our big thing was dual pricing. So that's when you guys became our counsel was, we sent you like, okay, hey, here's the two price. And we were very big on like, let's show here's like back in 2018, cash price, card price at the line level on our POS, right? And at the total. And more than that, like again, like there's levels that people don't kind of like put in, because what I've seen over the years, and dual pricing's evolved a lot around the program itself. It used to just be like, hey, let's just put a cash adjustment at the end, right? Or non-cash adjustment or whatever, and call it a dual. Right. It's not, right? Or cash discount. And like, I think a huge thing is even just most people don't understand that cash discount and dual pricing are two different things. Yep. And I think almost everyone to the state just throws those two terms colloquially. Like, I think most people have learned what surcharging is versus dual pricing to the degree.
To some
extent. Yeah. That's got more brand more awareness in the industry. Yeah. I don't think anyone really understands what dual pricing. That's a different thing than cash discount. Yeah. Because like we were doing the two price method, and we were big on the debit cards. Like there's the Durbin amendment. It's the thing people like don't catch that technically debit cards are cash. Like you read a law, right? Go look up a law. 2008, the Dodd-Frank Act says cash and debit cards are basically one and the same. Right. And so trying to understand some of those things, like, so I'm going to cash discount. Great. So you're going to charge the merchant the fees on cash, on debit cards. And they're like, no, we're going to run this check. Oh, so it's not debit card anymore. That's that bin range is the debit card bin range. And it's like, they don't kind of catch those aspects. And like, we've seen Visa audits come through, and we've seen these fines get passed down that are, how Visa kind of comes about these a lot of times is, and they're thorough. Like we had like an audit, and it came picture by picture. Each receipt, they went in once with cash or a debit card, once with a credit card, and then they went and took a picture of the storefront, the signage.
And these were secret shoppers, just for our listeners.
Secret shopper, yeah. They secret shop, and they're thorough. They have that thorough record a lot of times of like, this is what we're like. No, we got you, and it's not like a lot of times they're not just coming and saying, oh, we think we have you. It's usually like, no, we secret shopped you. We have 7 pictures, and they're waiting for you to say no. So they can hit you with that. Oh, so you remedied it. Okay, you're going to 5 now. Yeah. And you're going to 1 to 5 jump. Because before, it used to be a warning and then 5, right? Yeah. Now it's kind of like, I think actually, I'm going to be the crazy person that says this. I think it's a positive that they start with the 1. Versus the warning. Yeah. Just because a lot of merchants will see the warning. It's kind of like a speeding ticket.
Yeah, and kind of ignore it, like,
they ignore it, and the next day later they get a 5.
5, yeah. No, that's
like,
a good point.
And it's like, at least the 1, it's like it's an opportunity to open a dialogue between the ISO and the merchant. Like, hey, you got hit with 1. It's going to be 5. And then they're doing this. It's not like, don't think you're going to get around this.
No, it's going to be a 5. Show us what you're doing. Let us tell you how to fix it.
And it opens that dialogue. Yeah. So I'm the crazy person that says the 1 is okay.
That's a good argument. I get that. I haven't heard anyone say that, but it makes sense.
But it has definitely been something that they've been heavy on. Yeah. And I think it's absolutely something that like it's a problem if not doing it right.
Would you say is this one of the number 1 issues you're seeing in modern day kind of like payments industry, or is there anything else that you're seeing?
I think it's the biggest risk vector for anybody looking to take on. So I also think I'm a little different in the sense that most people look at risk when they go, like, I'm going to transition from retail to wholesale, whatever, right? And they think, okay, my risk is a $5,000 average ticket. And I'm like, well, the risk, that's credit risk. But then there's regulational risk. And then there's also this new risk, which is network compliance risk. Like, you don't know if it's like the same owner versus same address. And I've seen both situations get carried over on fines, right? Like a guy will come in with like he'll have like a perfectly compliant store, or not compliant. Let's say the first owner will then come in and say he gets a fine for $1,000. Then he sells it to a completely different dude, same different corporation, different owner. The second owner comes in and says, "Well, it's a different owner," and Visa comes back and ups the fine to $5,000. And it's like, well, this is a different owner.
Yeah, you see, that's ridiculous, Jeremy. We've never heard this one.
No.
We talked in our last episode about one owner, multiple different businesses. Even then, I think that's ridiculous that they get fined. They're all separate entities, separate businesses. You should not, if you get hit with 1K at one business, if your other business is non-compliant, they shouldn't get hit with 5K after that, right? That's kind of...
I mean, I don't know if it's legal or not, but I will say I think the biggest thing is it's just it's something that it's hard for the store to deal with. Like, try going to an acquirer and telling them we want to contest this fine.
Yeah.
And then trying to open a dialogue with actually opening it with Visa, and it's just the line of communication somewhere is a little broken.
We tried, and it didn't go too far recently.
it's like who the point the fingers at is a different whatever. But like I think there's definitely an issue. Like a merchant gets hit with a fine, and trying to find where where that issue is hard.
And you know, I've brought this up so many times. Like I said, I deal with this on a weekly basis. Yeah. Clients call us every week, and I'm usually the front of the line, kind of answering their questions. There's such a big issue because you have to deal with the card brand rules, but then you have to deal with state rules, and a lot of states are now getting involved in passing their own laws. So New York, a lot of first. And then there's I love to throw this out as an example. Minnesota, for surcharge caps, they allow up to 5%. Well, if you follow Minnesota's law, you're violating Visa's 3% and MasterCard's 4%.
But then you get into and there's so many nuances to that exact thing that we've seen, right? Okay, there's a state level jurisdictional law which will say, okay, this is surcharging. But the state law might be written to say surcharging and dual pricing are almost the same.
Right.
Whereas obviously the car brands have this, I don't want to say very rigid, but this fairly rigid, somewhat rigid kind of concept that at least established. It's been established now. We've seen enough fines go out in the market that we know okay, this is what surcharging is. This is what dual price. We know what these things are, right? When you look at the state level ones, that's it's hard. Okay, New York calls basically dual pricing surcharging.
Yeah.
The law is written as surcharge.
Yeah.
But it's just what's crazy to me is the concept of the whole cost of acceptance thing, which is no one also is looking at that. That's been a huge, because I think we see a lot of times we'll go in and talk to a C-store and try to explain to them what they're doing is not compliant. I've seen it in a lot of states where an owner say, I'm doing the 50 cent under $5 thing. That's a violation of surcharge rules. Or I'm going to charge 3% and then I'm going to pocket it, the difference. And I'm like, that's also not compliant. It's above your cost of acceptance. And oh no, but why? So why should I give it to you? Is what they'll say. Why am I paying an ISO to do this? And they think to them, it's there's no value of compliance, and there's that concept of what is this, right?
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Payments Experts Podcast, a podcast of Global Legal Law Firm. Visit us online today at globallegallawfirm.com. Matters discussed are all opinions and do not constitute legal advice. All events or likeness to real people and events is a coincidence.